Test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, test.
We'll get started in a little bit. We'll just wait for Councilmember Basco.
Actually, I'm thinking about it now. So we open a special meeting. We went into closed session. Technically, we reconvene into open. Do you want to say we're reconvening into open session now and then adjourn the special meeting?
Okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay. Just procedurally, we are now reconvening because we had a special meeting that was a closed session, and going to have our city attorney report with regards to the closed session, and then we will close that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there was one item on this evening's special meeting. It was a closed session item. No action was taken in closed session by the city council. So now that we reconvene, if you want to adjourn the special meeting, we can go into the regular meeting.
All right, and we'll go ahead and adjourn the closed session. Now we're going to go ahead and call to order the regular City of Clovis Council meeting for May 5th, 2025 at 6:02 p.m. At this time, we would have Councilmember Ashbeck lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in saluting our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can get the city clerk to do roll call?
Councilmember Ashbeck. Here. Councilmember Basco. Here. Councilmember Bessinger.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pierce. Here. And Mayor Moanatua.
Here. Up next are presentations and proclamations. The first one is a presentation of proclamation declaring May as Bike Month, and reading this proclamation will be Councilmember Bessinger.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Bike Month, not Bike Week in South Dakota. Read a proclamation of the City of Clovis declaring May 2025 as Bike Month. Whereas throughout the month of May, the City of Clovis encourages the increased use of bicycles for transportation, exercise, sport, and recreation for all citizens. And whereas bicycling has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, growing the economy of Clovis, reducing pollution, congestion, and parking issues on our streets and roads. And whereas it is a goal of the Clovis City Council to foster healthy, active outdoor lifestyles for the entire community. And whereas the City of Clovis has supported bicycling by building an infrastructure of trails, bike lanes, and other amenities. And whereas the League of American Bicyclists have established May as National Bicycle Month, with Bike to Work Week taking place May 12th to 18th, and Bike to Work Day taking place on Friday, May 16th, 2025. And whereas the Clovis City Council would like to honor and thank the Fresno Cycling Club for all their efforts in promoting cycling and safety for cyclists throughout not only Clovis, but the entire Fresno County region. Now therefore be it resolved that the Clovis City Council proclaims the month of May as Bike Month, and witnessed and signed by this date by our mayor, Boang Moanatua. I believe Dennis Ball is here to, I've known Dennis for 3 or 4 decades, it seems. Dennis, do you want to say anything?
Did you ride your bike here?
I knew I was going to get that question. I did not. I'm sorry. It's a little hot outside. No, I just wanted to say thank you all for this proclamation. It means a lot to the cycling community that you guys acknowledge that May is Bike Month. It's been around since 1956, so it's been here a few years. Not quite as old as me, but it's there. Anyway, we just appreciate it. And you guys are doing a great job on the bicycle infrastructure, and we appreciate all the work you do with our bicycle advocate, Tina, and she does a great job with it. And so we just appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Any comments from the City Council? I just wanted to acknowledge Measure C, first of all, for allocating a line item for bike paths and bike trails. And I think our city, at that time, it was Renee Mathis, was submitting all the applications for it, but then recent staff keeps doing that. And so that has,
Yeah.
our bike paths and our bike trails are probably exceptional.
Yes, they
And
are.
Tina, thank you for the notice here with all the bicycle events. And so every one of us should have one on the diet. So thank you for what you guys do. Keep advocating for that always. We love
And I
our
just
bike
wanted to
trails.
comment that the Climb to Kaiser, which is an annual event, this is our 46th year. We'll be starting at Clovis Rodeo Grounds on June the 21st.
Okay.
So we'll look forward to doing that.
Okay, did you want all your members to come up? Let's take a photo together.
Sure, come on.
Yeah, let's come
Gang.
up here, and you can come pick up the, our proclamation as well.
Uphill climb, 150, really, are you kidding? Yeah, like that's a no.
And speaking of Measure C, the next item is Measure C Committee. It's going to give us an update on Measure C, and I think it's Kendall who was here, and I think I see Mr. Robert Phipps as well. Is Terry also here? Terry Ogo as well. So go ahead. Presentation to
There.
the council and also to our citizens.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council and members of the audience tonight. I would like to say, before I go any further, that two of the members of that group are also on our steering committee.
Oh, excellent.
Tina is representing my interests, and Nicholas is her alternate, and they're fantastic folks. My name is Kendall Flint. I'm a consultant with DKS Associates, and I'm basically managing the renewal effort for Measure C. And so I'm here tonight to really just kind of walk you through some of the highlights of what we're talking about. I really want to thank the mayor and also Councilmember Ashbeck for their time to spend with me and give me some information about Clovis. First of all, Measure C renewal, it does not create a new tax. This has actually been on the books since 1986. This is a renewal opportunity to continue the funding. All of the money that comes in from Measure C is used exclusively for transportation investments here in Clovis and throughout the county. It cannot be used for anything else. It can't be used for parks, fire, police, nothing else, only for local streets and roads, and also for investments in regional projects. One of the things that I think is really important to note here in Clovis is that the city gets a substantial amount of its annual income for maintaining local streets and roads and bike paths and all those things that you have from Measure C. We'll talk a little bit about that, how that works in a moment. Up until basically about this time of year, $2.1 billion has been brought in since 1986. Now, when you add to that also the fact that you can use Measure C funds to leverage, in other words, you can take that money and say, State of California or federal government, we're going to put some money up here. We're going to use that to leverage for other grants. $8 billion. So altogether, that brings in $10.1 billion to the region. So without that type of money in the reserves, you're not able to access those funds. And so that's a really important thing to keep in mind about how this moves forward. These types of things have been supporting local road repairs, the airport, public transit, highway expansions, safe routes to schools, a number of things, including paratransit, senior script, which allows our seniors to be able to access discounted rates for point-to-point service. The other thing to keep in mind here is that it's actually pretty affordable for most Fresno residents in the area. It's about $8 a month per household. When you think about that, you're paying that on taxable items. Does not apply to medicine, does not apply to food, fresh food. One of the things that you have to think about also is how many people are coming in from out of the county. About 25% of the Measure C revenues are coming from people who are visiting this area. In other words, they're coming in to visit either the national parks or beautiful places like Clovis and the rodeo, which my husband told me I could not call a horse fair. I knew that. I knew it rationally because I live on a ranch. I've got horses, but anyway. So steering committee, we have a steering committee that's made up of representatives from all over the county, including here in Clovis. What they're focusing on right now is the length of a measure renewal. How long would that be? 10, 20, or 30 years? They're also looking at revenue allocation by category. And when I say category, in 2006, when Measure C was passed at that point in time, there was a lot of very complicated language that perhaps today wasn't as accessible for most folks. So they talked about environmental mediation and all these other things. When we're talking to folks today, they're saying we really want to know, is it local streets and roads? Is it bike and pedestrian? Is it regional? And is it transit? And these are 4 very basic categories that can be broken out, but we're trying to kind of simplify that, and that we talked with your staff and others, and they seem to be on sort of the same page with that. It's limited only to transportation investments, as I mentioned. It's not going to fund other things, and it's very compliant with California state law. The Fresno COG is one of 27 called self-help counties in California. All the ones that are not part of that, you may remember back in 2016 when SB 1 passed. Only self-help counties can access the $200, $300 million a year that is set aside for that match. So if you are not a self-help county, you do not get access to those funds. Really important to remember. The committee will also be looking at revenue allocation by agency, and one of the things we're talking about is some of our smaller cities here in Fresno County, might need a little help. We don't know. We're going to talk about that and whether or not there might be a small amount of money that's set aside at the top so they can have some real investments. And then finally, oversight. The oversight committee and the oversight parameters are really about making sure that you as taxpayers know where your funds went. How did they use the money? And so far, that's been a really good thing. We've just updated the measurec.com site. You can go on here and you can get information about specific investments here in Clovis or anywhere else in the county. You can also look at the audited expenditure plans for the last years that we're doing this. And I think it's really important because not everybody knows how Measure C funds were actually used. And as an example, if you've ever driven on 180, that's a Measure C funded project. Here in Clovis, there are quite a few projects that were funded by Measure C, and you can look at all of them and ask questions about what the future might hold. But it's really important to note that things like your local street and road maintenance, sidewalks, curbs and gutters, safe routes to schools, all of these things are funded through Measure C. In addition, it also funds transit services. So as an example, you're going to see in a moment here, Clovis Transit to date has got over $2 million from Measure C that helps them deliver that service that the residents and the folks here really want to see in that community. So we're looking at how do we reimagine that. We're talking about a new plan. I think some of you may know that Measure C did try to be passed in 2022, and it was not successful. And one of the things we heard very clearly from the public was they didn't feel that they were engaged enough or contributing enough to how they wanted the money spent. So this is our current website for the renewal effort. This is measurec2026.com. And one of the cool things on this, first of all, it's multilingual, so you can pick whatever language you would like it to be in, and there are 85 at last count. You can also build your own plan. You can tell us, and we want you to, how would you like to see the money allocated? How much for local streets and roads? How much for transit? All these different things. Or maybe you have a category we haven't even thought of yet. So this is really a public-facing opportunity for you to share with us what you want to see. And you'll see when you get in there, it gives you these different choices, but you can allocate however you see fit. So, I mean, Tina, I'm kind of laughing a little bit because, you know, the bike people want bike paths big. Other people want to see safe routes to schools. Other people want to see potholes fixed. Everybody's a little different throughout the county, but I think what's really important to note is that Fresno has more roads, more miles of roads than any other county in the state. And even if this passes, it's never going to be enough to do everything that we need to do for our communities and for our cities. But this is pretty much the best case scenario in terms of being able to get things done, at least in the short term, and make sure that we are, in fact, reinvesting in those roads to make sure that they have a long time to live. Now, here in Clovis, we've got 2 meetings coming up, both June 10th and July 15th. If you go to that website, you'll be able to get information about a multitude of other meetings and opportunities for you to share your information and share your ideas about what to move forward. I think the most important thing that I really want to leave everybody with is please go to this site, share it on your social media. The more people that participate, the better our data is. We're doing focus groups. We're doing council presentations at every municipality, at least twice, possibly 3 times this year. We have at least more than a dozen community meetings where people can share their ideas. We're going to be at community events, pop-ups, this sort of thing. If you have a group that is interested in having a presentation, please let us know. I'll be talking with the Bike Coalition next week on Tuesday. So we want to share this information. We want your guidance, and we want everyone to be very clear. There is no plan that is done now. We have the existing plan, but this is going to be a new plan. And the new plan is based on what we hear from you and your folks that are here in the city and then other folks that are within the county. But it only works if we're all having that conversation together. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions that the council might have, anything that I can share further.
Any any comments from the council or questions from the council? Okay. Thank you very much, Kendall, and I want to acknowledge Robert and also Terry that's in there. I just wanted to let the citizens know that we do have a representative. Adam Holt is our city appointee onto the Measure C. And then not only that, Councilmember Ashbeck will be involved in her capacity at the FCTA. And then I am involved on the COG. And then with regards to these meetings, I would like to ask our city manager to try to get these notices out to BOOT, to the chamber, to Rodeo Association, or just organizations that yeah, and so that way we can get our citizens out, because your voice needs to be heard, even to John Birch Society. You know, we all need your voices. You guys are always here at our meetings, and to go to these meetings will be very helpful, because then you get to really fix the nuts and bolts of Measure C as it comes forward. And then I wanted to say to PD, you know, we have a great network with the churches of the different beats. If we can get our church and our congregations of the different churches in the beats, we have that connection already. We can get them involved as well so they can come out, any of them. I think, you know, we need the public input and not just wait for Lynn or myself to be advocate. Even though you trust us a lot, I think your input is much more valuable at this point. So thank you, Kendall.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. Okay, at this time, we're going to move into public comments. And so if you have an item you would like to address to this council, an item that's not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. You will have 3 minutes. And if you would state your name and your address for the record.
Bill Scott, 341 Evergreen. I'm going to kind of go backwards a little bit. I'm going to do something that's just opposite of what's usually done. I want to make a proclamation to our mayor. And I hope when I'm done that you'll allow me to bring it up and present it to the mayor, and hopefully have a few people come up and take pictures with it. Okay. On this 5th day of the 5th month, the year of our Lord, 2025, we, the citizens of Clovis, present this proclamation of thanks to our Mayor, Vong Mauntua. In recent weeks, there was a dramatic mix-up over contract bid for the Clovis Refuge Collection. At the April 21st meeting, I expressed for our group how appalled we were. Was this the fault of our staff? Did they not understand the issues when they asked for this? Did all the bidders understand what they were to bid on? The staff had recommended the lowest bidder, confirmed they were vetted, and as to their qualifications. Somehow the other bidders thought that they were bidding on different parameters, and that's why they were higher. In the discussion that followed, it was determined that Clovis would revisit the bid and allow all the bidders to see the other bids. This required the company that currently has the contract to negotiate an extension that would cost the city of Clovis several $1,000s more than expected. Also, a new requirement that the bid should consider the possibility of separating residential from commercial collection. All of this should have been decided before the bid was started. This led to a heated battle that saw companies accusing each other of deficiencies. These accusations could have led to defamation suits, costing time and money and drawing the city into the fight. We also heard a vague accusation of political misconduct. The possibility this controversy could last for months was very real. In my remarks, I suggested someone should be fired for this. However, thankfully, our mayor stood up and led. With a perfect closing argument, he effectively dismissed all the accusations, vague and direct, with facts and reason. He explained we have an excellent staff, and we should follow their recommendations. To me, if we can't do that, then why do we have them? His recommendation was to vote to accept the staff's original recommendation to give the contract to the low bidder, who had been vetted by staff, and end this drama. The possibility does exist that this is a mistake and that all the complaints about the winning bidder could be correct, but all council decisions carry that possibility. And I'm sure our mayor took that into consideration. With the factual information presented, this was the best outcome for the citizens of Clovis. Thank you, Mayor Malantoa. I probably didn't get that right. Can I bring this up?
Sure, you can hand it to our.
Is it possible to get a picture?
Well, I just wanted to say for the record, I think the healthy debate from even Councilmember Basco and Councilmember Ashbeck, I think that's what we want on this dais. And so sometimes the vote goes the other way, and so it's okay. But thank you.
Your closing presentation.
You're not? You guys? Somebody take the picture. Oh, for goodness sake.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, good evening. My name is Eric Rollins. I live at 575 West Ashcroft, and I want to bring up the topic of charter cities again. As I look into this issue, you know, there's 478 cities in California. Roughly 1/4 of them are charter cities, though most of them are not using the power that comes with being a charter city. I'm happy to say that we have a valley town that has decided that they're going to embrace the fact that they're a charter city, and they're trying to stand against some of the unreasonable mandates from Sacramento. Pretty much without fail, whether I'm speaking to a council member, a staff member, or I'm just at a city council meeting, the idea of Sacramento forever having a new rule, a new way to tell us how to live our lives comes up continually. So I would encourage you to put this on the agenda so that the citizens of Clovis can express their thoughts on charter cities. Maybe we can learn more about it. I realize it would have to go on the ballot, but I believe that's an important first step. And I would strongly encourage you all to look into charter cities. I have some contacts in Huntington Beach and in Porterville that I could put any council member in contact with if you'd like. And I hope that we hear more about this because I believe it is a way that we can begin to control our own destiny a bit more. I get that Sacramento's still going to try to keep their heavy boot on our necks. Nonetheless, Clovis is special. And if we simply comply and bend over to everything they want, we're going to lose that. So I would encourage you, again, to look into that, and I thank you for this time.
And we are continuing looking. I think our city clerk is gathering a lot of the research right now. And so pay attention. It'll be back on the agenda shortly. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Trevino. I live on Bullard. I noticed a couple weeks ago we had the Clovis Rodeo, and it sold out. Thousands of people went to the rodeo. So everybody loves the rodeo. I love the rodeo too, but there's some things I don't agree with, and that is bull riding. You can see the emblem, City of Clovis, you see the guy on top of the horse. You know, every year someone dies in these rodeos from bull riding. The last rodeo that we had here in Clovis, a young man fell off a bull. And it wasn't in the news. It just so happened I was watching it on YouTube. And he was passed out for maybe 12 seconds, I believe, something like that. And he could have gotten killed. And I realized everybody loves this. It's part of Clovis. It's part of the rodeo. We have a big monument here in front of the rodeo grounds for bull rider. And I've seen people go up to him and, you know, praise. You know, I mean, he was a big deal to a lot of people. But let me ask you guys a question. You had a son that was 24, 23 years old. Would you want him riding a bull with the possibility that he could get injured for life or killed? You know, is that what, you know, our society is about? And I understand where a lot of people are coming from. Clovis Rodeo, and rodeos around the country, that's part of our culture. I understand that. But again, if you had a young son, and he was a bull rider, how would you feel about that? And that was on my mind. You know, you walk around town and you see the emblem on our city streets. You know, the guy, you know, bucking a horse. You know, it looks good. You know, it's like Toy Story. You know, you saw Toy Story. Oh wow! You know, you see a soldier and his arm comes off, and you know, it's no big deal. But in the end, you know, I looked it up a little bit. I guess one bull rider dies almost every year. So it just, for me, it's just a thought provoker, just something to make you think. So anyways, hey, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trevino.
Hello, I'm Bill Rogers with the Veterans of Fort Morris Post. The wall at Healing is coming to Clovis. It's a replica of the wall back in Washington, D.C. It'll be here October 9th through the 12th. It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It'll actually arrive earlier. So mark your calendars, and there's going to be more as it comes up. Clovis Veterans Memorial District is kind of spearheading along with the Vietnam Veterans 933 group. We have a committee going, and we're getting it on. So it's going to be here in Clovis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thanks for the invitation. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion. Now we're going to move to the consent items. Consent items are routine in nature and recommended for approval by the City Council. These items will be considered and voted on as one single item unless a council member requests consideration of any item. Any council members want to pull any of the items? Okay, seeing none. We're going to go ahead and open up the public comment. If you have a comment on any of the items 3 to 7, the consent item, you can address it at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll close that. And get a
I'll make a
motion.
motion for the consent calendar items 3 through 7.
Wait a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is council items. Item number 8, consider approval, the reappointment of Mr. Brandon Bedstead to the Planning Commission for a term ending in May 2029, and our city manager, Andy Hausler, is presenting on this.
Mayor, it's my pleasure to recommend reappointing Brandon Bedstead to you. He's been serving us for some time. We deeply appreciate it, and he is up for another round. So he is here if you'd like to make any comments and if you have any questions for him. But I thank you for your service, Mr. Bedstead.
Any questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none. Go ahead and open the public portion. Does anyone like to address this item? Okay, we'll close that, bring it back to the council.
If I might, since I was privileged to appoint, or to champion Brandon earlier, and since I've known him since he was 5, and he's not 5 anymore, he's this cute little boy on a bike, but you're still kind of cute, but you're not on a bike anymore. It would be my pleasure to reappoint Brandon to the Planning Commission.
Okay, we have a motion. Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion second. All those in favor of reappointing Brandon Bedstead to the Planning Commission, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Brandon. Another 4-year term. Thank you. We'll move now to public hearings. Item number 9. It's consider various items related to Big Dry Creek Canal Improvement Project at Letterman Park. Item A is amending the 2019, 2020, 2023, 2024, and 2024-2025 CDBG action plans in the 2016-2020 consolidated plan to provide CDBG and CDBG coronavirus program funds to the Big Dry Creek Canal Improvement Project at Letterman Park in the amount of $187,000 for the prevention of the spread of the coronavirus by increasing the capacity for social distancing. Item B is to amend the 2024-2025 Community Investment Program budget for parks improvements to include Big Dry Creek Canal Improvement Project at Letterman Park in the amount of $187,000. Staff on this is Claudia Casares, Housing Program Manager. Claudia.
Hi, sorry for that mouthful. Claudia Cáceres, Housing Programs Manager, here with
Good evening. My name is Holly Greathouse, Staff Analyst with Housing.
and as thank you for having us, Council Mayor Montua, council members. As was mentioned, this is a substantial amendment request for the CDBG and CDBG-CV entitlement funds for the Big Dry Creek improvements at the Letterman Park. You had heard something very similar to this project back in December. It was for the water tower project. Staff was tasked with returning with this different project, and that's what this presentation is for. Quickly, you saw this as well, the timeline for the Coronavirus Act funding. It was submitted nationwide to all of the jurisdictions in 2020. There was a reallocation of unused funds and returned funds from other cities and counties in 2022, and the city of Clovis received $201,848. Back in 2022, we decided to put that into an emergency utilities payment program as well as for administration. There were 7 households assisted in 22, 24 households assisted in 23, and just 1 household has been assisted over the last year and a half, and that's just because the tie back to the reasoning you're behind on payments having to be coronavirus related doesn't exist anymore, thankfully. The recommendation by staff today is to reallocate available remaining funds to an eligible CDBG-CV project with coronavirus tieback. The coronavirus tieback for this project is it prepares for and mitigates the spread of the coronavirus and prevents close contact of persons by increasing access to open spaces. And that project again is Big Dry Creek improvements at Letterman Park. The project will install trail features, gateway elements at the street, monuments and signage throughout to ensure that pedestrians could have good usage and access to the canal bank. The park is located in a low and moderate income area census tract that services the neighborhood. The percentage of low and moderate income families is 75.70%. Total project cost for the project is $187,000. There is $130,876 available in the utilities program still. There's a little bit over $15,000 available in the administration activity. And to complete the project, we're requesting $40,190 from the regular CDBG entitlement. Of that $40,000, you will see a portion of it in the next presentation for our action plan, which was just a safeguard for myself. But $16,000 is available from cost savings from a previous year's project that was completed, and the remaining $23,000 is available from a project we had to cancel that is a current year project. It was an alley project that right before we started actual work on it, HUD let us know that there was new census data, and that alley project is now located in a census tract block group that is not low income. So we had to halt project activity on that and return the funds per se to the CDBG pot. So that's how we finish off this project. In general, this is a site location for the improvements. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there will be improvements at both streets, Villa and Barstow, and right in the middle of Letterman Park, there's access to the canal. It's where there is a bridge access to city facilities across the canal on the other side of the park. This is a picture of that same spot in the middle of Letterman Park. There will be grading provided, signage, and just to make it easier for pedestrians to be able to access the canal bank. This is the canal bank at Barstow. Again, there will be improvements made for pedestrian access as well as signage, and the same to be provided on the access to the canal on Villa. That wraps up my recommendation and presentation. Again, approval of CV program funds in the amount of $146,810 and an additional $40,190 of our regular CDBG entitlement funds for the project.
Any questions or comments for our staff? Go ahead, Drew.
Claudia, thank you for this and all the other staff that have paid attention to these really small things that are huge. When I moved to Clovis, I lived in an apartment at Barstow and Villa. My mother and father-in-law live in the neighborhood just south of Barstow. She walks the trails with her dog. I think we've all been in the mobile home parks down there, and there's there's a very high percentage of apartments down there. With them now having the improvements made and the Letterman Dog Park open, folks will be able to get their exercise, take their dog, get out in the fresh air because we all know that being homebound, especially as a senior, it can be almost a death sentence. So if we can get these folks out, communing with each other, giving their dogs exercise, or even walking their cat. I don't know how often you can walk a cat, but this is great, and I would love to see more stuff on the trails, but this is a great. I'm very pleased. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Just a question, is there a risk that the federal government would request these COVID funds back as we've seen in other jurisdictions? Like if we start the project, do we have any assurance that the funds won't be recalled or whatever the word is, withdrawn?
As far as I know, these funds will not be called back. There is a timeline on them. We need to spend them approximately in the next year and 2 months. But as any other federal department that receives federal funds, I think it's unknown. But as far as of today, we have not received any notice of.
Because I think Fresno County had, I don't know, it was $11 million from COVID funds that they stopped payment on, and so, like right away. So I mean, that hasn't happened to these funds, I guess. But you don't have any indication today that that's a.
That's correct, and I did just communicate with our representative from HUD last week, and he didn't mention that either.
Okay, thanks.
And Claudia, I had a question with regards to the trail. I think this is excellent that partnership with FID and then just doing that trail, and especially for this part, even though it's north of sort of that southwest, but this is that edge of that southwest that really needs trails. With regards to signage, is it just signage that it's a trail, or is it signage where, I think we talked about it when we were talking about the southeast, where if you're coming out of the canal bank on the north end, it'll actually say City Hall, point arrow this way, Old Town, just so there's more information than just trail. And so a thought on that. and even down south, I don't know what we would put down south, but on the south end, but even on the south end, if you're entering, at least you'll know you're going up. And if there's a little map that kind of shows, hey, if you go far enough, you'll get to the Old Town Trail. And so that way it kind of gives people an idea, something like that. So that way it shows, hey, we're going to get you there, but we're going to do segments at a time. We're planning it. But any thoughts?
I personally love the idea of wayfinding signs. I
Yeah.
don't know if our design team has gotten as far as what the signage will look like. I know they've been working with FID very closely, and
Okay, yeah, we get a thumbs up. So that I think that's great for the community. You can do that. Okay. Any other, and then you'll also plan a ribbon cutting, right? Because I think we need to celebrate these neighborhoods just like you did down in like the old Costco down there. So, okay. Any other comments? This time we're going to open the public portion. If you want to address this item, you may do so at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll close that. What's the pleasure of the council with regards to A and B? We can take it as one motion.
I'll make a motion that we, you want them as one?
We
that
just do
what
it
you
at
said?
one, yes. Okay. Yeah, Scott, so we can just
That
do it.
we amend the long list of CDBG action plans and the 2016-2020 plan to provide CDBG and CDBG coronavirus funds to the Big Dry Creek Canal improvements as described by staff, and then in the amount of $187,000. And I will add that we also amend the 2024-25 Community Investment Program budget for parks to include the same amount.
Wait a second.
Mayor, I think Lynn should read them all.
I can't say it, CDBG.
Second. Yeah,
Thank you,
that's a tough
Drew.
one.
Thank you.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
I
you
wish,
very
I
much.
wish I could, Drew. I wish I could say them all. I can't.
Next item is item 10, is the adoption of the City of Clovis 2025-2026 Annual Action Plan for the expenditure of CDBG grant funds.
Show off.
thank you.
And same staff for this, Claudia.
Yes, Claudia Cazares, Housing Program Manager, also with,
Holly Greathouse, staff analyst.
thank you, Holly. Before you today is our actual application to HUD. It's the Annual Action Plan for 2025-2026, and it's a public hearing. The CDBG allocation for the city of Clovis has not been provided to staff yet. HUD is a little bit behind. So we're estimating an entitlement allocation of $680,000, which is similar to what we received this year. Briefly, we've mentioned in previous years what makes projects eligible in Clovis. 100% of our projects benefit low to moderate income people. And the way we qualify low to moderate income in general is through three ways. We either directly income qualify households, which is how our homeowner occupied rehab program qualifies. Their households, and they give us their income information. Holly takes that and ensures persons are qualified. We also serve what's called a limited clientele population, which by HUD definition are low income. For example, the survivors of domestic violence in general are considered low income without having to turn in their income. Seniors are also considered low income, as well as foster youth. Or a project could be located in a low and moderate income census tract block group, which is how most of our infrastructure projects qualify. Our most newest map for the low and moderate income census tracts in Clovis shows these highlighted in blue. There is one random block right in the middle of Southwest Fresno that, I don't know, that's where we lost our alley. And most of the rest of the areas have been pretty consistent over the past several years. Projects that are eligible to be funded with CDBG have a long list of projects. It's really inclusive, but mostly here in Clovis, we focus on infrastructure projects or public facilities projects. We've also funded public services, which have a maximum 15% of our allocation. We also do a lot of street improvements, obviously, ADA improvements, our housing rehabilitation program, economic development through our culinary kitchen, parks and recreation, which includes services as well as facilities, code enforcement, which we've funded in the past, and the CDBG program also allows program administration that pays for city staff, Holly and I, which is the 20% maximum of the CDBG entitlement.
Okay, so developing the city's action plan. We began by reviewing past performance to find areas to improve upon or areas of need for the coming year. Public notices for upcoming meetings were posted at local businesses, on our website, on our social media pages, at public counters at city facilities, published in the Fresno Bee and Business Journal, and emailed to several other governmental agencies and nonprofits, specifically those serving lower income populations. We value our citizen participation, therefore we have in-depth stakeholder engagement. We held public meetings on February 6th, which included a workshop on our CDBG application, and on February 24th, which outlined the CDBG program and the types of activities that can be funded. We then held a meeting with the Clovis leadership to discuss the CDBG applications we received, and from this meeting, in combination with public input comments, city staff developed funding recommendations. Next was our Citizens Advisory Committee meeting to present the funding recommendations and gain their feedback. We have a great group of people on our committee who I will introduce on the next slide. And now we're here today for the City Council public hearing and public comment. Our committee members include Stephen Trevino, a longtime Clovis resident, Lowell Enns from Exceptional Parents Unlimited, Rich Mostert from Valley Community Small Business Development Center, Bonnie Audis, a volunteer from our Senior Center, and Russ Harding from Clovis Unified School District. We're very thankful for their time on this committee, and we love having their feedback and input on our projects and future goals. Now we'll go through a few pictures of recently completed projects from our owner-occupied rehab program. This first picture will show a bathroom that had floor underlayment exposed, causing mold and dry rot, as well as trip hazards from lack of flooring and temporary mat placement. The rehab provided new vinyl sheet flooring with transition strips and proper seals to protect against water damage and mold, and all trip hazards were removed, which allows for better accessibility for the elderly homeowner. Our next picture is a typical window replacement that is done on most of our rehab projects. The windows here were old, rusted, drafty, leading to mold and water damage and did not function properly, all of which posed major safety risks for our homeowners. The windows were replaced with new dual pane energy efficient windows that that function properly, keeping moisture out and maintaining a healthy environment for the owner, and also allow for another exit route in case of a fire. Finally, we have a kitchen rehab, which was part of one of our largest projects that took about 1.5 years to complete. This project specifically utilized Cal Home loan funding. However, these repairs are very indicative of what our program offers. Here, the kitchen ceiling had water damage and sagging due to roof leaks. The unit as a whole needed to be leveled. Electrical outlets were out of date. Windows were single pane and did not open and shut properly, and the faucet was broken and leaking. Rehab funds allowed the ceiling panels to be removed and replaced, new outlets to be installed, a new faucet and sink, new countertops, cabinets, and flooring, along with new windows and fresh paint. Ultimately, the elderly couple that lives here has almost a completely transformed home that they can enjoy for the rest of their lives. And then we also wanted to quickly highlight a couple more recent items. This one, particularly with the Senior Center, CDBG funding this year allowed them to host a symposium on health, safety, and overall senior wellness, which was very successful. And then we have a couple photos of our successful culinary center users that are funded by CDBG. We have Brian Pacheco, who owns BP Smoked Salmon, and Chauncey Gardner, who owns Unir Dining and often hosts cooking classes at our culinary center.
The next slide shows the proposed sources and uses for the CDBG program for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. As was mentioned, we estimate CDBG allocation of $680,000. There's a carryover from a housing rehab project, which we've assigned to the housing rehab activity of $15,000 as a project that's not going to be completed before June 30th. There's available funds from the canceled alley project I previously mentioned in the amount of $163,000 for total funds available next fiscal year of $858,000. Staff recommends the following activities and dollar amounts for the year. For the Housing Rehabilitation Program grants, $147,000. $87,000 for the Microenterprise Culinary Kitchen. $45,000 for the Clovis Senior Center enrichment activities. $57,000 for services provided by the Marjorie Mason Center. $179,000 for the Ashland and Helm Alley Improvements Project. $179,000 for the ADA Sidewalk Improvements Citywide Project. And approximately $27,509 for the Big Dry Creek Canal Letterman Park improvements. It has an asterisk next to it because it was already approved in the previous item. And then, of course, the administration is 20% max of the $680,000 allocation, which is $136,000 for city staff time. I wanted just to provide quickly locations for the infrastructure projects. This is the Ashland and Helm Alley. The Ashland and Helm Alley is going to cost $179,000. It would provide pavement as well as sidewalks and ADA ramps. The citywide ADA sidewalk improvements project, also $179,000, will provide connectivity where there currently is none for sidewalk as well as ADA ramps at corners where there is none publicly available, increasing the accessibility for our disabled persons to be able to enjoy the same areas that others enjoy. This was already previously mentioned. I just thought I'd remind you. This is $27,000 for the Letterman Park improvements at the Big Dry Creek Canal. And just because HUD requires it, I do need to let council know that this being an estimated amount, if the funding allocation is actually higher, then the funding for public services will increase up to the 15% proportionally. Administration will increase up to the 20% as well, and any additional remaining CDBG funds will be provided to the ADA Sidewalk Improvements Project. If the funding allocation is lower, then the funding for public services will, of course, decrease to the 15% proportionally, as well as the administration will decrease to the 20% cap, and any additional decreases needed will be taken from the ADA Sidewalk Improvements Project. That is the staff recommendation for the 25-26 CDBG Annual Action Plan. I also wanted to mention there is staff here joining us today from our different activities that are being proposed for funding. Marjorie Mason Center staff is here. Amy is here, I believe, for the Senior Center, as well as our CAP and DPU staff.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for the staff? Go ahead, Lynn.
So, thanks, Claudia. Love the support of Marjorie Mason Center, so we will always do our part to keep you here, even though we wish you didn't have to be here, so thank you for what you all do. I think every year I ask about, our culinary center has been wildly successful. Can we have another one? Can we start another incubator? I mean, it's, from an economic development standpoint, I wonder if we have plans. I saw Sean earlier, he's back. He's like, oh no, don't ask about that. But I just don't want to forget, because I think we've really modeled something interesting for a city, that culinary center is really such a great example. Miguel at Miguel Salsa says, why can't Clovis be the salsa capital of the world? I don't know. Why can't it be? But anyway, just a plug for that in future years for CDBG funds. I do have dyslexia. Because somebody asked me the day, what about Sierra Vista Mall, which is getting emptier by the minute? So, I mean, what are the opportunities in the space of economic development, job creation, that we might be able to invest from these funds? So just a plug for that as I make annually. I'm glad we're spending more money on the culinary center, but I think that we did that really well. Thank you, Sean. I think we could try something else. So just a thought. Thanks.
Holly, I wanted to highlight something you said when you finished with that seniors home, that you said they will be able to enjoy for the rest of their lives. And I just think that a lot of the investments that we made, some people will complain that we don't do programs. But I would argue that what you or what our staff has decided to do goes a long way. Fixing an alley to make it safe and to make it look like it's not Clovis, to where it looks like it's a Clovis alley, it's huge. It's huge for the kids who walk there. It's huge for the people who use it. And to the rest of us who don't have an alley, we don't know it. But you're keeping an eye on it, and you're making it where it's safe. And you know who benefits too? PD benefits. 'Cause now they clear view, whatever, lighting, whatever it is. So it benefits the entire city. And thank you for doing that, because it's long-term. And for the programs that we do serve, like Marjorie Mason and to our doing symposiums and our senior center, culinary center, these are programs and or things in our community what we love. And we know that it's necessary. And thank you for supporting those and putting those as the priority. And I would echo what Lynn says. We don't hope we never need it, but since we do have that need, we want to be a support, so that way you continue to be a place of refuge for families that need your services. And I think that connection there, and then connection with PD, with Chief being on your board and our staff being here. And lastly, I want to say, Mr. Trevino, you come enough to our meetings and you volunteer for this. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think well, I'm glad you're serving.
Paid off.
So thank you for serving on this. I hope you find some satisfaction from the input that you give. And we'll open it up and you can come question. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. So thank you. Excellent report.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public portion. Mr. Trevino, you can come and address us at this time.
But you can't complain about Claudia. We're begging you.
My name's Steven Trevino. I live on Bullard. My question is basically for the young ladies here. We were talking the other day. Do they accept donations? Is there things that we can do to help? That's my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes.
That's a great question.
Let us know who you are.
So yes, we accept donations. Obviously, the elephant in the room is we accept monetary donations all the time. So that's always our first go-to. We do have a wish list that's up on our website. If you look on that wish list, those are our main priorities that we need. So off the top of my head, full-size shampoos, full-size pillows, comforters, those type of things that we run out of very frequently. So.
I'm sorry. Now, how do we do this?
So you could go to either, we have our location here in Clovis, right up the way on Sunnyside and 4th, and you could drop off there between the hours of 8:30 and 5 with the staff there, or our new location, which is located on 255 West Bullard. Okay? Thank you.
And give us your name, just so that everybody knows who you are.
Leticia Campos, Chief Programs Officer at the Marjorie Mason Center.
Okay. And then-
Leticia, can someone go to the front door at the Marjorie Center and drop off?
Yes.
Because I think in the beginning you weren't doing much of that, but you
as
do
long-
that now.
Yeah, as long as they, we've tightened up like the things that we are accepting just because we run out of room really quickly. And so the wish list is super important. So if they go between 8:30 and 5, specifically here in Clovis, Monday through Friday, those are the best hours to go. At our Bullard location, you can go after hours.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What I have found helpful is you can shop your wish list on Amazon.
Yeah,
And
and
then
have
it
it
just gets
delivered.
delivered to wherever they want it to go, and it's super easy.
Yes.
So that has been my recent favorite way to support you in that way, because I don't have to go buy it, bring it, drop it off. It's great, so anyway.
Thank you.
Like,
I'm sorry. I apologize. Is your wish list online?
Yes, it's online on our website.
Okay.
Okay.
excellent. Hopefully that is helpful to the entire community listening.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Drew.
Letitia, do you guys take gently used items too, or do you?
We used to, but because we got so much of it, we stopped taking those items.
Okay,
So it's all new items for our clients.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Excellent question, Mrs. Trevino. See, you helped us all. So.
If you need some help finding that online, I bet our staff will help you. I'll help you.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'm Jenny Cran. I also live on Bullard, a little farther out than Steve. And you sort of answered, what if you don't get all your allocation? What if you don't get any? I mean, I hate to say some moments I get very pessimistic, but between Doge and the need to come up with a budget that allows, greatly reduces the expenditures of the government, I would see HUD as a big target.
definitely our projects that are not housing rehabilitation related would get decimated. But we do receive housing funds from other sources, the state of California, namely. So our housing rehabilitation programs as a loan would continue, as well as down payment assistance. Other projects, I'd look to the city manager for direction.
Yeah, we would have to reassess. We've been getting CDBG for nearly 20 years, and it's been around for 50, give or take. So we'll see what the administration and Congress does with it.
In my experience with the CDBG funds, because President USC received a lot of it, is that the guidelines and the sort of the oversight has been tied down so well that it's a pretty neatly run machine, that the allocations are pretty, regardless if it's a conservative president to a more left-leaning president, they've always have supported CDBG. So, any other comments? Okay, so we'll close that. We'll come back to the council. What's the pleasure of the council? This one's shorter to read.
I'll move that we adopt the City of Clovis 2025 Annual Action Plan for the expenditure of Community Development Block Grant Funds. Thanks for no acronym on that one.
I'll second it.
Good
Okay,
job.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we move now to item number 11. This is consider various items related to the fire hazard severity zones as recommended by the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection pursuant to Government Code Section 51178. Item A is adopt findings, consider approval to adopt findings in designated fire severity zones by the California State Marshal's Office as identified within the local response area. Item B, to consider introduction of an ordinance adding Chapter 4.4.1 to Title 4 of the Clovis Municipal Code pertaining to adopting the designation of fire hazard severity zones and reflected in the FHSZ map. Staff on this is Chad Fitzgerald, Life Safety Enforcement Manager. Chad?
Look at that. Wow, the miracle. No time for shame. 26 years? Yeah, sorry. Anyway, not as much fun to say as CDBG, but the FHSZ mapping is a component that has come out through the California Office of Emergency Services and State Fire Marshal's Office. It's important to note that this is an ongoing process that started back in 1991 as a result of the Oakland Hills fire. It's required by government code, and prior to this cycle, the local jurisdictions who didn't have the severe hazard, the high hazard that's listed, were not required to adopt by resolution or ordinance anything whatsoever. The state kind of looked at it as, hey, there's not a lot going on there, no big deal. Obviously, in the last few years, with climate-driven change and some of the fires that California has experienced over time, the state's turned around and reevaluated the necessity to kind of tell all locals, hey, even if there's nothing, we want to make sure that you adopt these maps so that the public knows and the local jurisdiction knows what hazards are existing within the jurisdiction itself. So again, there are 3 levels: moderate, high, and very high. The CAL FIRE, when they go in and they do the evaluation, it's important to understand that they're simply evaluating the hazard as it presents itself in that area. And every city, every county has now received these maps. This is not an assessment of risk. Risk would be a function of looking at the hazard alongside of mitigating measures such as water supply, access, roads, construction, things of that nature. So again, this is solely vegetation-based and looking at fire history, blowing embers, the wildland, terrain, weather, things that are in the natural environment, not anything relative to the built-out environment. And there's been some question relative to these maps: does this change my fire insurance coverage? I can tell you that the fire insurance companies in the state, without putting any kind of judgment value on where we're at these days, they look like a lot of other factors. They look at, again, What's the history been there? What are the mitigating factors within the building code? Has there been fire loss in prior years? So the assessment of risk and the impact to local homeowners insurance exists outside of this map itself. The map could be part of the consideration, but it's not the sole consideration. So what's impacted? And I apologize for this. On the left, you'll see the state response area, and on the right, you see the local response area, SRA and LRA. Moderate is that lowest threat hazard, if you will, and within the local response area, which is the city of Clovis, we are the LRA, we're just required to adopt the fire hazard severity zone map that was put on us by the state. For those areas that are high designation, you have to adopt, again, the fire hazard severity zone mapping. Chapter 7A comes into effect, and Chapter 7A is within the building code itself, and it talks about specific things you would have to do if there were homes and living situations present within that zone. And then when a sale of a property occurred within that area, you, or the real estate agent, I should say, is required to disclose that as part of the transaction. Now, obviously, the very high, which you see on the top there are a lot of other elements that then come into play that would be put upon the local jurisdiction, including a reevaluation of the safety element, making sure that the local jurisdiction, in this case, the city of Clovis, had some mitigating processes for the wild-urban interface. You would also have to do a subdivision review. There would be a lot more CEQA requirements, again, with the idea being in the high hazard, which is typically where you would see homes right against wildland or within a wildland environment. The state wants you to adopt some more mitigating measures at the local level, but fortunately, this map here, our lovely city has nothing that fits either of those, neither moderate, high, or high severity areas within the current city boundaries.
Mayor, I have a question. Chad, could you go back one?
Sorry. Yes.
So low does not exist?
Low does not exist. Low is the gray area, so let's go forward. Where there's nothing, that is low. But unfortunately, the state doesn't even give you credit for low. They just kind of throw it out there and say, nah. So, again, in the city of Clovis boundaries proper, there are no hazard threats whatsoever that fit any of the existing zones as designated by the state. I know that you may be looking up there and seeing at the very top, that is our landfill. Obviously, there is a high potential hazard there, but again, that's because the landfill exists in an area where there are dry fuels, particularly grasses, but there aren't any homes that we are responsible for there, simply the actual operations of the landfill. You'll note too, on our northeastern boundary, there against Big Dry, you can see some of that yellow for moderate, but again, as projects come through and we continue to expand to the north, we would need to understand that when projects land, there will be mitigation that then changes that evaluation, because you're obviously going to have water supply, you'll have streets and everything else that go along with that, as well as single-family homes since 2011 have been required to have residential fire sprinklers, and our commercial processes ensure that any commercial occupancy with 2,500 square feet or greater does have a sprinkler system installed too. So we've, through your action, taken a very proactive approach to ensuring the built-out environment maintains a good element of safety within the fire code itself.
Hey, Chad, go back to that last map. That area, is that yellow, is that still moderate only? Is
That's
everything
moderate.
yellow is moderate?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So even if that part, kind of by the 1,000 acres, it has no effect on someone coming in, because like you said, it's going to change once development happens anyway. So
Absolutely, it would change once development happens. Now, I don't want to misrepresent fact that, you know, as development comes in, it's not like this map's going to change overnight. The state comes in and reevaluates, but the municipal code, fire code, and building code that we adopt on a 3-year cycle would ensure that anything built in that area was compliant and met every code at the state level that would be in place. And it would mitigate that. That would not, you know, the next cycle when they do the maps, which I'm not quite sure when they will, that would change the color there, because they would look at, you would have a fire service line hydrants and servicing that area. You'd have, again, residents protected with homes that have a mandatory fire sprinkler system. We weigh in along, as you're aware, during projects as they come in with evaluating road networks, making sure we can get to hydrants, that there aren't any long runs that we can't access with fire apparatus.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Any other questions for staff? No? Go ahead and open the public portion. Anyone have any questions or comments on this item?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead. Well, let me close the public portion. Anyone? Okay, we'll close that. Bring it back to the council. Councilman Basco.
Chad, just confirming by having this the way it is and stuff, it just basically reassures that we're not gonna have insurance rises and those kind of things. And if you were to have those types of things, then the state and the California insurance would be looking at raising the rates of citizens and
So
in the future.
let me make sure I understood the question. So what you're asking is by adopting this doesn't have an impact on rates for insurance, right? This has no correlation directly to the rates that are established by the Insurance Commission. They do that independently. They may consider this map as part of that, but it doesn't, it's not the sole determinant for what a rate increase looks like. I can tell you, just as recently as today, I got a phone call from somebody just living outside that was concerned about their insurance company dropping them. So that's something that we're seeing across the state. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be responsive as staff when those calls come in, but it's happening across the state where you will randomly get a drop from your insurance agent and you're left trying to figure out what you do next.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
unfortunate.
what I'm saying too is that this is a positive for us towards everybody else by adopting this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Councilman Ashworth.
I think I know I've talked about it before, but I think as we develop to the north, the attention that you already pay to those houses right there on the edge, when it's a road and then it's still just wildland and brush out there, I think it's a worry, even though it's mostly not a worry, but those parts of yellow. So I want to thank you for continuing to do that, because I do think that's a super real threat as we go forward. It's also a great testimony for Station 7.
Wow.
That's good, huh? I
like
worked
that.
that
That's
right
way to
into
work
that
that in there,
sentence.
yeah.
Because somewhere up there should be a fire station, because that demonstrates why that open space will someday be full of neighborhoods. And it just makes it more important, because you have a little yellow going on up there. So just saying. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. What's the pleasure of the council? Item 11. Get a motion.
Someone else could do it. I'll do it. Let's see. I move that we adopt the findings in designated fire severity zones by the California State Fire Marshal's Office as identified within the local response area, and that we add Chapter 4.4.1 to Title 4 of the Clovis Municipal Code pertaining to adopting the designation of fire hazard severity zones and reflected in the FHSZ map.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Chad. Next is item 12. We're considering various items associated with fees under the Planning and Development Services Department, and find that the project is exempt from further environmental review under section 15061, subsection B, subsection 3 of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. City of Clovis is the applicant. Item A is consider approval increasing the building division hourly rates for services. Item B is to consider approval of the 2025 City of Clovis Planning Division fee schedule. Staff on this is Jesse Newton, interim building official, and Mackenzie Pierce, deputy city planner.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for the introduction. You'll be considering 2 updates to the Planning and Development Services fees, one for building and one for planning. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jesse, and he'll start the first part of the presentation, and then I'll end it with planning and our recommendation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Am I too far away? Yeah. Must be too far away. All right. So what we're recommending is the increase of our hourly rate from $95 to $110. This would not take effect until 60 days after resolution of approval. The last increase we had of this particular rate was 14 years ago in 2011. Historically, the building division relied on the valuation determined by permit fees of all permit types, provided the fees needed to maintain the time and motion costs. The division is now refocusing on this due to the decreased permit fees and the increase of service costs. All right. So what we did here is we did two analyses. The first analysis was a comprehensive, justify the hourly rate. The first analysis compared 9 comparable cities to the city of Clovis based on the criteria on the average size single-family dwelling with a $95 rate and a $110 rate. If you notice on the charts, the one on the left is the $95. We're in the very top at 0. All other 9 cities that we compared to are above us. Some high, almost 271%, down to about 77%. On the left, when we do the increase to $110 rate, plus the building valuation data increase that we do, we move up on the chart to the lowest to about 52% lower than that city. So we're not gaining anything on top of it too much. I'm not trying to bring us up to the point where we're matching them because they have different focus, different abilities, different things they have to pay for. So it's just for us to come up a little bit. The second analysis was detailed, but for the hourly rate for expenditures to understand the financial implications, The analysis, for example, finds that the standard home of less than 2,000 square feet, the fee collected did not adequately cover the staff time to complete the project. There was about 11% deficiency in the fees collected for that permit type. We currently have 62 permit types. The analysis showed insufficient fees collected on other permit types as well. Across the board, there was a deficiency in the collected permit fees which were needed to maintain our services. The reason for the recommendation. As the hourly rate increases to $110, the permit fee will increase, ensuring that the value of our services provided by our staff is maintained. The proposed hourly rate increase will cover the comprehensive range of building division services, including but not limited to plan review, inspection, permit processing, and code enforcement. The proposed increase equates to approximately about 17.5% increase across the board of all permits, a figure that we believe reflects the actual cost of these services to our best estimate. It will bring the fees collected to our service cost ratio to a level projection. Moving forward, we are committed to conducting an annual review of our fees. The process will ensure that our fees remain fair and competitive, and the necessary adjustments will be recommended to maintain the sustainability of our projects and operations. On our final, oh, you're going to take over? Okay.
So for Planning Division, we are updating our fees. Just to give you a little bit of background, we had a comprehensive fee update back in 2021, and that included a very large increase because the last time we had updated our fees was in 2009. So since then, we've been returning annually to adjust our fees accordingly. What we do is we average out the last 5 years on the Consumer Price Index. So our recommended adjustment for the next update is a 4.22 increase. Again, that's an average of our last 5 years. We have sent out notices to all those applicants and developers that have an account with us through our EnerGov system. There's about 4,000 recipients that received notification. We also published it in the Business Journal, and we've received no objections. So the fees will go in effect in 60 days, which would be July 7th. So we recommend that you approve the resolution for the increase to the building division hourly rate and approve the 2025 City of Clovis Planning Division fee schedule. That concludes our presentation. We're here to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Drew. Could you go back to the slide where you're comparing the city's fees?
That one.
Is there a reason we don't use our neighbors?
So that breakdown to the comparable cities is ones that closely match what we do. We couldn't compare ourselves to Fresno because they're such a larger city than us. They would outfit us.
The reason I'm asking is I think it's helpful when we have conversations with people in the development community who are talking about your fees are so much higher, or whatever complaint or issue they might have. I want to compare apples to apples. Do we know where we line up with the city of Fresno on our fees?
I
on
do
this?
not at this point in time, but I can get that information for you.
Okay.
Right there.
Yeah. So I do have, the comparisons we did were also Merced and Visalia, so they're the two that we are on our list.
I see that.
Yeah, so they have, you notice that they're at 93.6%, or 6% above for Merced, and 79.97% higher than us for Visalia. Again, all the cities that we compared to are on our list for what we compare all of our fees to, are.
Right, but I'm only one council member. When I see numbers, I want to see where we compare with our neighbor.
Okay.
Even if it's apples to oranges, it's still fruit, and we need to know. At least I want to know.
Easy enough to do. I'll get that information for you.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Just
Diane.
kind of following up on that, I think, part of the reason for that consideration is when we're talking to most of the developers around here, they're not choosing to develop whether in Clovis or, well, maybe I'll go develop in Manteca. Instead, it's, hey, I'm going to do this and I'll probably do it in Fresno, Madera, or Clovis. And so knowing what that sphere looks like could be helpful, again, in the conversations we have with them, which are going to be far more localized, even if there's reasons to use those comparison cities.
Lynn, did you have questions?
My takeaway from this is, let's not wait 11 years to do this. We bump into this every now and then, so I know you said you would have annual updates, but I think that we get ourselves into trouble because we don't adjust, and then all of a sudden it seems like a big adjustment. So anyway, that's my takeaway. Yes on that. Fees are good, math is good, but that's the biggest point I wanted to highlight. Thank you for that point.
Any other questions? My question is with regards to, if approved, are these numbers in the forecast, and will it be taken into consideration during budget when it comes forward, or that is based on current fees only, and current, because we're approving in 60 days, it's going to go up, so pretty much in the next year you'll get these, you see the results of this. So it may be a J question. You're the ones who give the numbers to J, so are the projections based not on these, and will it change the information in the month that comes to us?
It will change, because right now I based everything off the current valuation, what we're at right now on our fees. But our plan is, if this goes through, is that as soon as it does, any permits that are after that date will be increased to the newest fee, so it will have an impact.
Yeah,
But
so
there's-
there would be
Andy,
some,
can you
there
kinda
would be
give-
some slight increases in revenues in the PDS department.
Okay.
Maybe not a full freight year's
Yeah.
worth, because there'll be permits that are still working through. But then we would base future forecast on this fee schedule.
Okay, that'll be helpful, because it'll be more accurate, in other words, if you do that. Okay. This time, we'll go ahead and open the public portion. If you have any comments or questions, you can address. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public portion, bring you back to the council.
I might as well make it unanimous here, for heaven's
Yes.
sakes. I will move that we approve an increase to the building division hourly rate for services, and that we approve the 2025 City of Clovis Planning Division fee schedule.
Can we get a second? Okay, we have motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, that completes all the items this evening. Now we'll go to city manager comments. Andy?
Yes, I just wanted to highlight the Trail Fest event we had this last weekend, and one booth in particular caught my eye. It was our Planning and Development Services team having a booth getting community input on the general plan update. Some great engagement out there. Just want to give them some kudos for that and thank the community for coming out, and General Services for putting the event on overall. It was great to see our trails so busy. There's also this Saturday a low-cost microchip and vaccine clinic at Clovis Animal Services. And then on the general plan update, we're having a workshop this week to get further input from the community. So that's on Thursday, May 8th. We're also accepting applications for the Clovis Youth Commission. Those are live. There are some on the table out in the lobby. So if you know a high schooler, please encourage them to apply. Those are due in June 20th. And we're seeking applications from those that are interested in serving on the Measures Y Oversight Committee. So those applications are also on the back table. They're available online, and we're looking for those by June 6th to bring those back to council for their consideration. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, this time we'll have council comments. Councilmember Basco?
Just a quick comment. I went to the Healing Center dinner fundraiser the other night, and I know when we start talking about giving to different organizations and whatnot, it's a pretty positively needed organization in what they do in forensics, and having somebody who specializes in interviewing of children that have been victims of crime, and the things that they do are pretty special. So I'd just like to keep them in mind when we start talking about, things and stuff that we do in the future, and just remember just how important that organization is.
Thank you. Councilmember Messenger.
I attended a North Kings GSA meeting a week and a half ago. They approved a proclamation to start the process of putting meters on residential and farm water wells, which I'm sure is going to be a crowd pleaser with a lot of people. That'll be starting in July with some educational stuff. I went to the IQ Vision ribbon cutting. They have a new facility at Temperance Alluvial. It's very nice. And they even have a pediatrics separate part. And so I think that's going to fill that area on the northwest corner is really starting to pick up with medical, and that's a great thing. I spoke at a Veterans Memorial VFW event on May 1st. It was a very well-attended event with the VFW. I attended the K-9 dinner for local law enforcement last night, and today was Gloria Bradford's retirement, and I presented her a proclamation. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Ashbeck.
This has turned into like everyone reports where they've been, but I think some of us go to the same places. So, rodeo. Yes, we all went to the rodeo. Yes. So, excellent job to staff and PD and fire and public utilities. Literally 10 minutes after the parade, you couldn't tell there was a soul anywhere in Old Town. So it was super cool. So that was a lot of fun. Also went to the opening of the Clovis Botanical Garden. I think Vaughn was there also. If you haven't been by at Clovis and Alluvial, been by there, Drew? Out Drew's backyard. I bet he could take a peek at this. But the building is amazing. And it was, the architect is Art Dyson. So to have an Art Dyson building, I think you were there, yeah. Super amazing, super, anyway, it was a treat to talk to him as well. So that was really nice. Went to the dinner of the Fresno Mission, as Diane and Vaughn also did. It's good to be around people that have good missions in life, and the work they do is really unmatched. So it was at the Well. Now, I'd never been to an event like that at the Well, so that's a small gathering of 600 people. So that was quite moving. Working on Measure C, as Kendall noted, so that's kind of going along. I wanted just to mention, you talked about Measure C. Don't forget, we thought about maybe doing a mayor's roundtable around Measure C. Yep. So if you have that idea to bring people together, that might be a good forum to do that. And then just a request, I saw somewhere that there was it called Hmong American Day?
Yes.
So I didn't know about that. And so is there, I know it because it shows up like, hey, it's tomorrow, 10 o'clock. That's not really helpful. And I don't know what the process is for, did you just not want us to get invited?
I will state my position with regards to Hmong community and inviting my fellow council members. I want them to treat you like any other council. I don't want to be the
we don't get invited?
No, but they said they invited all of you because they do that to the city of Fresno. And I think you all deserve the same respect that it just can't be easy just because I'm know it, and I just go, hey, guys, just go. No, they need to be as formal with you as everyone else. And if they don't, I don't want to be responsible for inviting because they did not do their job.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they said to invite everyone. I don't know because I don't know your emails.
Well,
but-
I just saw
and
it in.
they just sent it to me too, so I respond directly to them.
Yeah,
so.
Well, anyway, so if we could work on that, because I think having it show up, at Rebecca does a summary of what are you doing next week, but if I'm doing it next week, I'm probably not doing it because I don't know about it. So and I never did see anything on that. And I guess I thought about it because I certainly would have been there to support the community and you, but I didn't see that. So I don't know quite how to manage that. So just, there might be an opportunity for some improvement along the way there. So that's all. Thanks.
And Mayor Pro Tem Pierce.
Yeah, just a couple of things, kind of in the theme of what we did, aside from the rodeo and the parade and the fantastic events that were associated with that. Just last Friday, in addition to the Fresno Missions Banquet, which I will say something on briefly, Vong and I also participated in the ribbon cutting to kick off the Friday night farmers markets in Old Town, which was really a great thing to do. It was beautiful weather out there, so hopefully those Friday nights will continue in that vein. It looked like a great turnout, and so always a fun time in Old Town Clovis for the farmers markets. And then the one point I had that I kind of took away from the banquet for the Fresno Mission, and they also kind of partner with another organization called Martin Park that works with disadvantaged communities and neighborhoods in our region, is the idea that for me personally, I can get extremely frustrated with some of the things that come out of Sacramento and things like that. And it was just really impressed upon me that regardless of what's going on that we can't control, that we get frustrated about not being able to deal with, there are some incredible organizations right here in our community that are doing tangible things to help people that are in really vulnerable seasons and environments. And so I just want to encourage anyone else who's out there that like me can get exasperated or get really down on maybe what's going on. And particularly, I'm always very concerned about what's happening with our children. And what the Fresno Mission is doing, and specifically what Martin Park is doing, is reaching out to those kids who, again, are in disadvantaged situations, whether it's youth who are terming out of the foster system or anything like that. So I just want to encourage people to take an extra step, and if there's something that's bothering you that's going on, find out what a group here locally is doing that's directly addressing that, because we can't fix everything, but if we all do just a little bit more right here in our own community, we will see the difference that makes, and we can be part of the solutions right here in our own backyard in our own neighborhoods. So just an encouragement to, I hadn't even heard of this Martin Park, but they're doing incredible things for kids in particular neighborhoods, in the Lowell neighborhood, in Fresno and that. And so, a lot of these things may not be right here in Clovis, but maybe Clovis kids are benefited from it or whatever it might be. So again, just feel free to take an extra step and find out something new about an issue that is really going to see some differences made here locally. And then I also wanted to check with my colleagues. I would imagine we all got some information about our 500 Club and a bill in Sacramento, SB 549, that they are battling because there's a lot of regulations and restrictions coming against them. And so I wanted to see, I know as a council, we've been generally amenable to helping them out with the different things that they've come before us for, as far as adding tables and things like that in accordance with state law. And they have a sample letter of some concerns about regulations that are being proposed in SB 549. I am happy to offer a letter in support of their issues, which again is kind of about these concerns. And if it is the pleasure of my colleagues, I would suggest that we send it from the council as a whole.
Did everybody get that? I would support it. Do we? If not, then we can write individually if there's not a consensus.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay. Andy, can you prepare a letter? You can have it, whether it's signed by me on behalf of the council or signed by all 5 council members, either way, just to show that the city is behind it instead of the individual council members.
There is a template sample letter that I'd be happy to forward if you guys have.
And it's opposition, correct? Letter
Yes.
of-
Mhm.
Letter of opposition.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And just to be aware, next week, we're bringing a package of bills for you to consider petitions on
Okay.
a variety of them as well.
All right, and I think that's all I had. Thank you.
I wanted to report out from City Selection Committee first. In that meeting, we voted for Mayor Victor Martinez to represent the COG in LAFCO. The other candidate was Mayor Jared Dyer, and so Victor had the majority of the votes. And then we also clarified the CalRAN ID board, and it is supposed to be a city selection appointment. So because of that, I recused the city of Clovis because we were on there for a long time, and Mayor Freddie Valdez of the city of Fireball was appointed onto that. We didn't talk about the alternate, so I don't know. I think you're still the alternate. The CalRAN ID?
No, they just sent me
They sent you a letter as well? Okay, so yeah, so. Yeah, I received one as well, so we're out of it. Okay.
Something from PD though goes, so it isn't like we don't have a voice there.
Yeah, I think Kurt, Chief is on there. The action we did take, we approved a consultant study for the San Joaquin Railroad. So they're going to study to see if potentially light rail using the current railroad from the couple outlying rural cities. It gets into middle Fresno and then goes back out to, I don't think it goes out to Mendota, but maybe Kerman. So they're going to do a study, just to have a study ready because they applied for, they meaning the COG applied for and received this grant. And then lastly, I wanted to report with regards to Measure C, we do have our appointees. Adam Hope is our appointee, but other city of Clovis type persons is, I think we have Tina, right, is on it. And then I think Mark Kepler is on it. So that's sort of Clovis folks. I don't know if the Memorial District, I encourage them to apply as well, just from a veteran's perspective. I don't know if they did. What's going on in that is the COG has a citizens committee, and then we also have a technical advisory committee made up of staff from all the, so they're in there advising this committee, which will sort of get the categories and the allocation amounts, and they will meet to discuss and formulate that. They will also have community meetings, as mentioned earlier, a couple here in Clovis. But at the meeting, there's another group called Transportation for All. And so they are launching their effort as well. Probably some similar categories, some others, but they are starting their community events. So there's sort of these two groups conducting transportation Measure C-ish type measures moving along. And then there's the Central Valley Community Foundation, who has offered to be the mediator, get these two groups together, and they will help drive a citizens initiative which will lower the threshold for approval. And so that's what happened the last meeting. It was kind of confusing, but that's the two groups. And so I don't know how it will all move forward. They both will keep moving forward. There are some that are on the Transportation for All group that is in the COG committee as well. So it's, as Councilmember Ashbeck and I have witnessed, it's not going to be smooth, and we will see what will happen. We will keep our citizens apprised of sort of the direction and where it goes. The COG will get monthly updates from this committee and our consultant. I'm assuming the same is going to happen at the Transportation Authority. And so please stay engaged, stay involved. Any ideas, please let us know so that way we can also share that with the staff of the COG and the FCTA and also our consultant. Any comments, Lynn, on this?
No, I think we're trying to put together a meeting this week to see if we can start to not do duplicate work. So I'm not sure that will happen, but that really is the intent. If we have two measures there, neither one of them are going to pass, and there we'll go. So I think that's the worry with having this dual Measure C work. So we'll keep trying to get the trains running on the same track if we can. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And I do hope that COG and, I've been advocating for joint meetings with COG and FCTA, because we also need to have dual, right? The money's in FCTA, but the staff that's hired the consultants is in COG. So that's not helping, I don't think. So anyway, it's messy, but hopefully we can get us, Measure C matters to the county a lot, and it matters mostly to small communities. We would hurt without Measure C, but if you're Huron or San Joaquin or Selma, anything less than short of Fresno and Clovis, I just don't know if they would, how they could survive. So it's for the good of the county, I think I would say. So keep working on it.
And I think that's the reality. If there are two measures, none will pass. And so ultimately, it'll all fail. So just want to report that out. I want to thank Amy and your staff for helping the Tsuchi Medical Clinic and coming at 5:30 in the morning. And they had appointments, so many appointments. It was a by appointment only, but to cut glasses for those who can't afford. So it was a special vision screening. They can only do in a day, a great day, they can only do 40. They had like 120 people. And so they have to complete the others and just send it to them. But I'm glad that they used the old senior center. And so it fit perfectly what they wanted, what they needed. And for us to just open and say, yeah, come in, use it. I think it was just great for the community. So thank you for that. I wanted to report and give compliment to the Clovis Cemetery District. The history of Hmong veterans fighting the Secret War, they have relied on Congressman Costa to give equal recognition, and to this day, nothing has come to fruition until President Trump came into office, signed into appropriations the ability for Hmong veterans to receive benefits at cemeteries. So that came about. What happened last Wednesday is our cemetery district, Dwight Crow's on the board, so is James Lindenbach. They reached out because there are 5 cemeteries, Toll House, Albury, Academy, Clovis here, and Red Bank. They noticed there were a lot of Hmong buried in it, and sometimes there are soldier or honor guard services. So they reached out to me and said, are some of those Secret War veterans? We want to honor them like all the other veterans buried in our cemeteries and put a blue star on it. So that way during Memorial Day, we'll put a flag on their gravesite also. Veterans Day services will honor them, and also during Wreaths Across America, we will also put a wreath on them. The Hmong veteran groups were just so touched by it that of all the cemeteries that recognize them, it was the Clovis cemeteries that did it. And they keep thinking it's because of me, and I told them straight, no, it's because of the good people at the cemetery district. They reached out, they initiated, so it's them. They deserve all the recognition. And that happened on Wednesday, and now the Hmong veteran groups will identify families for them to identify to the cemetery district to complete that process. It'll just keep going. I want to thank our staff, Chad, for being the MC to just help coordinate everything there and helping draft the press release. And I want to thank our veteran, Councilmember Drew Bessinger, for speaking on behalf of the city at the press conference. And also, what was also meaningful to the Hmong veterans is the Memorial District came out and supported, the VFW came out and supported, and the American Legion. And so to see established American veteran groups say to, this group of veterans, say, you're veterans just like us. And I think the American Legion guys said it most, we don't care about rank, color, whatever. A soldier is a soldier. And if you're fighting for what America
has asked you to fight for. You're a soldier just like us, and you're a veteran just like us, and that was just very touching. And so I wanted to report that out just so that our citizens know.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I didn't know about that either. So I don't know how that, like, I never saw that. So again, I saw it on the news or social media or wherever I saw it. So again, it's beautiful. Thank you, Drew and Vong and Chad. But I don't know. It doesn't sound like Diane was aware. I mean, I just don't know how, I don't know how those things come, and I don't know. So there's just opportunities.
Yeah.
Again, you'd think we weren't supporting you, but we really would if we knew. So we didn't know. But that was the other one that I didn't know of.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
What was it? You know, the rodeo was great. I'm glad the youth commissioners came out. I think it was a thrill for them. That was the one item that they identified they identified Clovis. So they identified it with the rodeo. And thank you to Congressman Fong for joining us on that, and for the staff reaching out to them. And then with regards to the Clovis Botanical Garden, they're still looking for funds because they need to fill it with furniture. So if there's any one of you who would like to donate, you can go on their website. And I think if you donate 1,000, you can get on a plaque on their wall, their donor wall. So if that is, you are inclined, please do that. And then I want to thank Chad and Andy for supporting. Every time we go to a ribbon cutting now, we are bringing a certificate on behalf of the city of Clovis. And if one of the council members cannot attend, staff will present. And then if I or one of us aren't there, or if any of you are there and I'm not there, then we can present on behalf of the council to the businesses that are doing ribbon cuttings in conjunction with the Clovis Chamber. So, and that's all I have. At this time, let me look at it. I think we're German, huh? Okay. Now we're going to go back into closed session. There are two items. One is a conference with legal counsel of anticipated litigation, and the second is a conference with labor negotiators. Anybody in the public like to address items 13 or 14 before we go into closed session? Okay, we'll close that. And Scott, anything that you think any action taken?
We're not requesting action in closed session tonight on either of these items, so there won't be a report.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We're adjourned to closed session.